Hello, everyone. Welcome back to. I don't know what episode this is. This is probably like episode 500 or whatever. Hayden is with us today. Say hello, Hayden.
Hello, Hayden.
He's just having some, I wouldn't say technical difficulties. He's just doing some personal stuff right now, so he can't have. So he's kind of like, he can
Yeah,
talk. It's just that he just can't, be on camera right now. So it's like,
I'm just having to kind of multitask. So it's like, because we're recording this on on my laptop, and I gotta do some stuff on there. So no point of you seeing my very serious looking face while I'm focused on stuff.
yeah, so, and I apologize for that. So it's like, but it just happens to be in our best interests at the same time. But yeah, uh,
Is it? Do we really need to apologize, or should we say you're welcome?
I won't answer that. All right. So if you can't hear from the sound of my voice, I'm coming off of a cold. No, it's not COVID, thank God. Uh, that's part of the reasons why we took a week off. One, because I was coming onto a cold just like on Tuesday. I was like, yeah, you know what? I can feel a cold coming on. So I'm gonna need my energy saved. I thought it'd be like maybe a 2 day cold or something like that. Nope, it was gonna be a 4 day cold. And again, last week Hayden had some like personal stuff he had to do. So of course I was like, yeah, you can take a week off. I highly doubt nothing's gonna happen. It's gotta be like a slow week. And sure enough, the moment we decided to take a week off, all hell breaks loose in Hollywood. Well, not literally, but figuratively, of course. So I have to start with the good stuff that we learned about over the week. So James Hong, who probably has been best known for with roles like Lo Pan and Little Big Trouble in Little China. Uh, I know he was in Kung Fu Panda. Uh, he just was in is it anywhere?
I think it's it's like I think it's everything everywhere all at once. I
Yeah, I
think.
think that's what it's called. It's a very tongue twisty title, but basically, and he's been a staple of essentially genre films over the past, like, say, 60 years or so. Like, he's been in films like Blade Runner. Uh, yeah, he's like, if you've seen his work, it's like, oh, I know who this person is. But I mostly know him from like Big Trouble in Little China, and probably like those cameo roles where it's just like, oh, he's just got to play the little mental character, like Balls of Fury, which was like one of those type of films where it's like he plays up that whole notion of playing the mental character, but at the same time he's like just having fun with it. And then he goes against, and then he's like on the same screen as Christopher Walken, so it's like that's even more hilarious. Where it's just like you have Christopher Walken on one side and you have James Hong on the other side, and they're both clearly having fun with the same role of just having complete, yeah, just like having complete fun. But yeah, he recently got his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, which has been what's it called? It's been a not only a long time coming, but it also has been a crowd funded cause, because if I remember correctly, Daniel Day Kim, who I believe worked with him in the past, basically say, hey, he set the fundraiser to say, hey, get James Hong to get a uh, a star in the Hollywood Walk of Fame, and sure enough, it actually gave, like, I want to say, like, maybe past its proposed thing. And now it's like after a couple of years or so, it's like, oh, okay. Especially with Everywhere All at Once, they was like, hey, you know what? Now is like the perfect time that he's starting to become like more respected and more like what's the term? Yeah, respected, but also is like honored. There we go. I can remember the name. You can tell how bad my memory is right now because if this was like a regular day, my memory would just be like, oh yeah, Brian, come on. But since I've been battling a cold for the past like week or so, it's been like a little rough. But yeah, it definitely feels like a great cause for the fact that here is a guy who's been around for, I believe, 60 years in terms of his career, although it might be even more than that. And he's been in like almost like films, give or take. And that's even more impressive considering, the amount of people who are probably going to be like, yeah, he's been in his I'm trying to read the article actually, so it's like don't mind me.
I'll like while you do that, I'll quickly say something.
Yeah, well, I'm actually trying to remember. Yeah. Oh, okay. That's what. Yeah. So the crowdfunding campaign actually raised $55,000 to essentially getting him a star on a Highway Walk of Fame, which is amazing considering it's like. Some crowd sources I've heard in the past, like they could go like 100,000 or something like that, or 10,000 or something like, I mean, like, yeah, 10,000, 25,000, something like that. But to get like $55,000 is like, it's an amazing feat, especially for a crowdfunded campaign. But yeah, go ahead, Hayden.
Yeah, I just wanted to say it's like the fact that this is something that was really kind of like crowdsourced essentially. Like these are people who are fans of this actor. And that's like honestly just a testament to how fantastic he is. That so many people came together and were like, you got to give this guy a star on the Walk of Fame. And it was one of those things where it's like finally they gave him one because this dude is just like he's been in so many like movies, TV shows for so many years, like spanning 6 decades.
Oh
And
yeah,
that's an amazing that's an amazing resume of work. And also, just to kind of on a side note too, is like that movie, Everything Everywhere All at Once, is like it's done a lot of great things for a lot of people's acting careers, honestly.
oh yeah,
Like his in particular, but then also the actor who had played Short Round in that Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom movie, because he didn't really do a lot of acting after that movie, if I remember reading correctly, and then he came back into acting with this movie.
Yeah, actually, that's actually sort of like the great thing about that movie is that everything, like that's what I was referring to. Not well, of course, Indiana Jones as well, but the idea is that this not only has this movie essentially exceeded expectations, but has also gotten people to notice like, oh, there are great Asian American actors or just Asian representation on screen now. Specifically, actors of caliber that hasn't been acting in years. Case in point, the actor who you just mentioned. Now I gotta remember what again, my mind is so like muddy today because of my sick cold. So I apologize for those folks, but
yeah, I'm generally terrible with names too.
And it's also that the name too, like Everything Everywhere All at Once. So yeah, the actor Ki Hong Kwei. So he's basically been in the show business for probably since the 80s. He's been mostly known as Short Round. He was also in the Goonies, Head of the Class, and then over to obviously in the 90s, like that's when he kind of like stopped. Like he still continued to acting in the 90s, but he kind of like he basically stopped in his own remission because like not because of like what I mean, it was because of like stuff that was happening to him, but I think he just like he wanted to focus on his career, and he basically became like a stuntman uh, in the world of Hollywood, whereas it's like, okay, I feel like more comfortable, behind the scenes rather than being in front of the camera. And I mean, and that's a
Well,
lot of things that happens with actors too, where it's just like, after like doing, X amount of films or X amount of work, people now become like a lot more comfortable. You know what? I feel more comfortable behind the camera than I am, on the camera, because if I'm behind the camera, I have a little bit more creative freedom of what to do, as opposed to just being an actor who's like, hey, this is what my director wants me to do today, or this is what my stage manager is telling me, so forth and so on. With Quan, he basically went into stunt work, and then his last stunt work before this was actually X-Men, the movie X-Men, and
the
yeah,
first X-Men movie.
Yeah, the first X-Men movie, and then afterwards he was like, I'm just retired, so
Mm-hmm.
which is and then I think it was like maybe a couple of years ago he decided, it was like, I want to go back into acting again, and his agent was looking, and his agent was helping him, and they found the role I mean, they found a role for him in Everything Everywhere All at Once. And sure enough, the actor was able to not only use his stunt experience, because there was actually, they have a clip online of him, like his character fighting, and it's like almost as like when you watch it, it's like, oh wow, this guy can actually, like, this guy can actually move. And now people are like, they kind of want to have short rounds actually return to Indiana Jones, as opposed to having this character that was once considered to be an annoying side character to be like, oh man, like this character actually could be, incredibly, people are forgetting about, oh, yeah, and it's it's amazing how sometimes there are characters that actors can like kind of like surpass themselves, so it's like people could forget about who they are, when they're on screen. It's like, oh man, it's like like a perfect example of this is probably like Robert Downey Jr. As Tony Stark, right? People forget that, people forget about the Tony Stark in the comics, because Tony Stark in the comics is a way different character than Tony Stark in film.
Mm-hmm.
Now, nowadays, it's like, and the same thing with like, perfect example would probably be like Jimmy Lloyd and I'm at best from the Phantom Menace.
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy Lloyd played Anakin Skywalker when he was a kid. People really didn't like how Anakin Skywalker was because, again, George Lucas isn't like the best of writers, but it is what it is, but people really hounded Ahmed Best because of the character Jar Jar Binks, because Jar Jar Binks was essentially a comedy character for the kids, right? And that's essentially what George Lucas said. Hey, he wanted to create a character that was specifically designed and aimed at kids, so he created this character. So obviously he was like buffoon, and of course, after the movie, and after the experience, Ahmed Best has been said that he went through a very very drastic, drastic period in his life where he's just like he just didn't feel comfortable with the thing, and he felt like depressed and like a lot of that stuff. And nowadays, it's like people have grown, like it not only have grown more sympathy towards him, but also I believe Jake Lloyd as well, where it's just like, oh, you know, nowadays it's like people are like taking these characters from previous films and just like understanding like, oh, okay, it's like it's not their fault for being like that on film. It's just that that's just how they were, portrayed on screen. It's like the great thing is like right now is like people are watching the Twilight films, like again, people are watching the Twilight films now and just going, Man, Robert Pattinson's really actually an excellent actor. I can understand why he was like working himself to be like that boring on screen. So it's like, but back to my original point of like with this film is that it's obviously is giving more showcases of not only Asian American actors, but just basically Asian representation on screen, specifically actors who have been in the industry as long as they were, and now they are getting more recognized for their work because of just saying, hey, we've been around here for say X amount of years, and now we have a not only a movie that is doing supremely well, but also just being a movie that actually has a lot of like funness around it. And Hayden, do you have any segue or what have you?
No, I mean, no, I think I already kind of summed that up.
Yeah, sorry if that was like a little roundabout way, but that's
I mean, it was a pretty short round about.
Yeah. But yeah, back to Mr. Quiet. Yeah, he's like, even though his like last film that he worked on was being a stuntman on the original X-Men movie, just because of this film, he's allowing himself to actually go back to work as an actor and actually feeling like, hey, there's like this notion of like, hey, I can still do this thing. And of course, people are now like asking to see if Short Round could actually come back into the next Indiana Jones movie as sort of like maybe as a sidebar character or maybe as a cameo, just because even though the new Indiana Jones movie has already wrapped, or people have already wanted like Disney to essentially say, hey, there's this character who could probably work well for a well, not like a Disney Plus series, but well, yeah, Disney Plus series or at least its own like own movie, specifically
like basically its own kind of spin-off, but it's centered around Short Round and his adventures.
Yeah. And I don't think everyone wants to have like Shia LaBeouf to have his own like spin-off.
Yeah.
Oh god.
Also that would also be a brilliant idea too for like, because like we'll just look at the John Wick movies and how Keanu Reeves does a lot of his own stunts.
Oh yeah.
And how I'm gonna probably butcher that pronunciation. Ki Hui.
Yeah.
And again, sorry for butchering the pronunciation. I imagine he might also probably would do a lot of his own stunts as well. So it's like it would just make like any of those fight scenes look like 100 times better.
Oh yeah, it's like, and especially specifically since he has a background in being a stunt actor as well, where it's just like
exactly,
it like, and that was and to counterpoint with the John Wick thing, the people behind John Wick, not only Keanu Reeves specifically, they have their own backgrounds in stunt work, so that obviously when they're designing a fight scene, it's obviously almost like everything is down to the level where it's just like everything is strictly like designed for a great fight scene, because they know how to actually script a fight and actually choreograph a fight, compared to like say someone who doesn't have a background in like say stunt work, but and tries to do like fight scenes like that and fails miserably, and everyone like, oh, it's like ha ha ha, and like they have a fight scene failure or something like that too. Whereas it's like, but yeah, it's
and honestly, like there are a lot of good like stunt people who do become good actors, because in a lot of ways, like with stunt work, it actually can help you grow as an actor as well. Like a great example, just watch the fight scene from the bathroom fight scene from Mission Impossible Fallout, because that actor that Tom Cruise and Henry Cavill are fighting, like he's basically just a stuntman. Like that's what he is. Like he doesn't really do a lot of acting. Not that I found credential wise or on his resume, I should say. My apologies. And he sells that fight scene so much.
Well, of course, because for one thing, you have to go against two people. One who is basically You know, all right, we won't beat around the bush. Tom Cruise is not a very big man. Okay, he's a very short individual. He's probably like this.
Like he was basically the same-ish height as the stunt actor.
So he's like in like maybe like not like 5'8", 5'9", like I say, he's like a tall 5 something, right? Compared to like Henry Cavill, who's like built like a tank, and he's like 6'3" or something like that. So he's like
he's the kind of tank who pumps his fist and you hear like a gun cocking.
he is a Superman after all.
Yeah, but and Geralt.
Yes. But yeah, it does show you that there are some people who have great expertise or some expertise that have in acting. Danny Trejo, right? Mm-hmm. He had a background in stunt work, or just a background as being like, oh, the villain is heavy and stuff like that too, where he doesn't do that much talking. But in previous movies where he didn't have that much talking and didn't have that show, like now, and then Robert Rodriguez came along and says, let me just play you, let me have you in a couple of my movies. And then a couple of those movies turns out to be, essentially like a franchise upon a franchise upon a franchise. And now everyone loves Danny Trejo. Mm-hmm. Like, because Danny Trejo has always been known to be like the very scary kind of like, the very scary kind of like henchman character. Now everyone knows like Danny Trejo could play the fun uncle type of character, because he's just that type of person. Another great.
Yeah, there was with Danny Trejo, there's this like almost hilarious moment when I was watching Sons of Anarchy, like near the finale, when there's kind of a twist when we find out like whose side he actually is on, really, and like basically his character wants the deal to go down, but then the deal doesn't happen. So he's kind of hanging around pretty much like right up against like the back of like the main character of Sons of Anarchy. I'm blanking on the actor's name. Charlie Hunnam, that was it.
Jax.
Jax, yeah. I want to say the actor's name, but I blanked on it for a second. So, yeah, Charlie Hunnam, that was his name. So it's like after the deal goes down, and it's just like Charlie Hunnam's character, and then you just see Danny Trejo's character almost just kind of like right up against his back, like almost kind of popping his head, like almost like in a comical fashion. And it was like, it's such a subtle but almost kind of brilliant, and like a brilliant way of just showing like just kind of showing you the character's like desperation, but while also having just a little bit of a comedy, like a little bit of like a funniness to it. Because I also would because when I watch that show, I see that scene and I can't help but just crack up, because it's just like this imposing, intimidating character we've seen throughout this season. It's just sort of like, hey, can we just have a word? Like almost like a shift, like just Anyway.
Yeah, I love how this conversation goes from having like James Hong getting his direct, how this conversation went from being celebrating James Hong having his own star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame to essentially how great Danny Trejo is. But
we literally need a referee to keep us on track or something.
Yeah, but it actually does bring a great point, because it circles back around to James Hong, where it's just like in his career, James Hong has always been like this very, he's been playing either the evil, essentially the evil sorceress or the evil gangster or something like that. He's been playing a great villain, but over like maybe the past like maybe 20 years or so, he's been playing more like the mentor type of character, and now it's just like people are starting to like understand and actually start to like maybe say, hey, there are great. Excuse me for a second.
Oh, good.
Oh, my nose is actually bothering me now.
Yeah, I was like literally last week. I was just like allergies just had kicked into high gear.
Yeah, and I'm the one who gets the cold. But yeah, they are like with James Hong is like there are actors like him that have this caliber of just being like known for this particular type of character, right? And then they do a film that essentially shows like, oh man, it's like, hang on for a second.
Oh, good.
Now we actually can see that you're a great actor, and we're sorry for, always assuming that you were just like one-noted in terms of just being a character actor.
Yeah.
Ugh, I'm sorry about
it's like congratulations that like you are finally getting this well-deserved recognition of your talents.
Yes, and I apologize for leaving almost in a hurry. It's just that again, I live with my family, so it was like someone needed to go get a package, and they didn't, and they don't really hear well, so it's like
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of family, what's a good family activity that people love? Baseball. And in baseball, there aren't that many media type of. I mean, of course, there's media things, but there's not that many plays about baseball. This is an odd segue into. This is an odd segue into going into Take Me Out.
Yeah, this has nothing to do at all about a play about the lives of baseball players.
No,
Not at all.
no. But yeah, we have to talk about this stuff.
But you know the one thing that you used to have in common with both a baseball stadium and a play?
Hmm.
You would have your phone in your pocket.
Yes.
But that's going to change at one of these locations.
Yes. All right. So yeah. Sorry about that. Okay. Look, I'm not really good with segues sometimes. So unless the segue is kind of like built into me, it's it's like it's a little hard to do a segue, and then suddenly it's like,
yeah, we don't prepare these segues ahead of time. This is usually just kind of like us, like kind of like going off the cuff with it, and then we just kind of like we just basically see if we get lucky with a segue or not.
yeah.
There's a little
Like,
behind the scenes taste of how we do the magic.
It was like we plan out like what we need to talk about, right? But we don't plan out what segues we do. We just do it in the moment. But yeah, so, oh boy, take me out. How do we begin with this? One, I worked at, full disclosure, I had worked in the past at the Helen Hayes Theater back in 2019. I think it was, the fall of 2019. So, I remember vividly hearing some of my coworkers talking about the, because the Second Stage Theater was already going into preparing its like next season, so they had they only had like two fall shows, right? They had the one that I was doing, and then they were doing another fall show going into winter, and then the winter they're like, okay, nothing in the winter, and then once spring hit, it'd be like, okay, we have spring, it's Take Me Out. It's got to be like, spring 2020 is got to be a nice little niche into being in Broadway. We know how that turned out. And going into these type of discussions is like, I remember vividly some of my coworkers were like, what is the nature of the play, and how, one scene in particular is basically, a shower scene, and everyone's, and all the shower, all the people in the shower are essentially naked, and how are they gonna be doing that? How are they gonna be doing a play, a production, and not have someone go on their phones and try to take a photo and take sneak a peek or something like that, or sneaky sneaky pic, sneak a pic. There we go. Now the problem is that originally, of course, the plans has changed over the past couple of years. Originally, it was going to be magnetic boxes or something like that, right? Sure, like not like this, but something similar to, say, something like this, where it's just like they open the box, there's a magnetic thing, it's like a magnetic shield, and then you put your phone into it. It's sort of like the same thing. I wouldn't say like it's the same thing that they did in The Dark Knight, where it's like, where it's like, who's it called? Lucius Fox had to put his phone in, in a little like thing, and they just put it into like a thing. But it's basically the same.
Yeah, that was more like throwing it in a little like container and throwing it into like a drawer pretty much with a bunch
But
of
that
other
was
phones.
but that was essentially one of the ideas, was that they had this magnetic like case thing, and then you put it into like essentially a drawer full of these phones, of all these other phones, where it's just like, okay, we have all this stuff, you have your ticket, okay, all that stuff, and a lot of that conversation was like, a lot of that conversations were, how do we combat someone who doesn't want to like put their phone, and they decide to sneak their phone in, because it on Broadway, it is hard to keep someone not to take photos, during the performance and stuff like that too. Like there's like people famously losing their shit for people who took photos during on stage, and then it's much more harder, specifically if there are like multiple actors on stage doing a nude scene, and that's what's really the reason why the Hayes decided to be like, okay, we decided to put this notion of, okay, this magnetic thing won't work. So what they did do was, I think they decided to do a new thing, which was essentially a yonder bag. And a yonder bag is basically, it's almost a similar bag like this, right? You put your phone into it, and then it's sort of like the same thing when you go to a like when you go and get something from a store like a Target or Kmart or something like that, and they have to essentially clip it off in order to take your phone out, right? Now, because of the phone mishap, people found out that it was very easy for the person to actually essentially just take the yonder bag and then essentially just like tear it open. Because apparently all you just need to do is just use your brute strength to force that sucker open, and then take your phone out. But the problem is that even with their countermeasures, and they're talking about how they put like new security systems in to like infrared sensors to put basically to make sure no one is using their phones or trying to take out their phones. Would that also still pick up people who managed to sneak in a GoPro, or maybe even one of those like cameras that are basically like this, where it's just like, because I know they are selling cameras that are essentially like almost similar to glasses, but they actually, all you just got to do is just like touch it in a certain way and just start recording. So it's like, does it also, do these infrared cameras like pick up that as well? Whereas it's like, because there's always going to be a person who tries to sneak their phone in, or person who sneaks a performer like live on stage doing their thing. Because again, it's like someone, they find like an actor, when you find out there's gonna be an actor appearing nude on stage, of course people are trying to sneak their phone in and try to take a little picture and all that stuff. Nice stupid thing fell. But the take me out thing is actually, it feels like it's much more different, because it does sound like, oh, the Helen Hayes Theater had ideas of like how to combat this and all that stuff. At the same time, it's definitely one of those things where it's just like, hey, I honestly don't think they had. I honestly don't believe they had it like correctly at all, because the idea they originally had, which was essentially, hey, we will put your phone in sort of like a magnetic lock bag, and put the phone in a like a little like case or something like that, and then keep the case with us, as opposed to you bringing the phone in. That obviously felt like a little more, makes a lot more sense. But I guess people really are, we're in a point of our lives where people are just so attached to their phones that they just don't want to risk losing their phone for like 2 hours or so. So yeah, it definitely feels like the take me out thing is like, there will probably be a lot more better stuff, going forward. But the problem is, it's definitely the like, it's yeah, it's weird on different accounts, because again, as someone who has worked as an usher and then works as an usher, I understand people trying to not to use their phone during performance and check their messages and stuff like that too. But at the same time, people trying to sneak pictures, that's still a, what the fuck are you trying to do? Because you're obviously watching performance at the same time the actors on stage, and they notice you're taking a photo. You're basically that, you're taking a piss out of their performance. Whereas it's like, they could be doing a great performance. They could be, in the moment. They could be, tapping into some sort of energy, and there's like this little asshole decides to just take out their phone and decides to like take a little picture and stuff like that too. Where it's just like, and that will probably, piss off the actor, because one, they're probably in a zone that they're not even comfortable going into, because of, because maybe the nature of the scene. And then they see some, little person like in front of them, like trying to sneak a picture of them trying, like, crying on stage. It's like,
And also this show too, the fact that it's like, you're even more vulnerable because you are fully exposed on stage.
yes, yes,
Like it's already shitty to try and like, sneak videos or pictures of like a stage performance, but then it's like extra like shitty, pardon my French, to do that when
yes.
on the stage the actor is at their most vulnerable because they are like naked in front of all these people watching.
Yes. And, it's like, and it's weird because, not only did the Hayes like condone the people for essentially, taking their pictures and all this stuff, it's weird because it's like Jesse Williams, who was the focal point of all this stuff, he's like, he basically said along the lines of, it's my human body, is what you need to expect when you go see them. Like, it's my body is what you need to expect the moment you go see the show. Compared to say, and then of course, I think he was like, but I do condone people for taking the pictures and all that stuff. But it really does like bring this notion of, there have been in the past people taking, actors, yeah, that's the term, taking photos without their consent on stage as a way to essentially to essentially be taking photos without their consent in their most vulnerable state. Whereas just like, and it's weird because when it's yeah, it's weird because between these two, like, it's weird to me because like when it's a man on stage, it's like people are like more interested in the scene when it's a man on stage, but when it's a female on stage and she has like some sort of topless scene and stuff like that too, people are more outraged about that, like that type of thing. Whereas it's like when, yeah, it's like there was more outrage going into this compared to like previous times where it's like there would be like less outrage, like say, this person is doing a strip on stage and she has to be, nude on stage for like maybe 2 minutes because, it's a strip church or something like that, right? Compared to this scene where it's like, oh, this is like a 5-minute scene and they're all like, like all these actors are essentially nude on stage, and people are more outraged on that compared to say, someone deciding to take a pic of the same performance that I just mentioned and posting online, where it's just like it, it's it's definitely where it's just like, as an actor, you have to expect that even when you are your most vulnerable on stage, there are going to be probably someone taking a picture of you or taking something of you just as a keepsake, because it's like, just to say, hey, I just seen, or I just witnessed, like, James X just like decimate the stage at his most vulnerable. I want to keep it safe. I want to keep safe of that, and just like make sure to record that, and the next time I go see the performance or something like that too. Where it's like, compare that to when someone has to be on stage and they have to be both physically vulnerable, right, but also physically naked as well. Where it's just like they have to be both naked and vulnerable on stage. Where it's just like that's essentially just two different like ballparks. Where it's just like, as someone who goes to theater, you know, a theater goer or theater patron, I should say. As a patron, I want to go and see how this performance goes, and how this person goes. Like, okay, here I am going to be, here I am. Okay, this is okay. A little warnings. So, okay, there's some warnings here. It's like, okay, this play, contains, violence, brief nudity, strong sexual content, language, all that stuff, right? I'm like, okay, I have to prepare for all that, right? But when the scene in question comes on screen, I mean on stage, it's like, it's like I'm so engrossed in what's happening, I really don't care about what's happening on my phone, because I'm more confused. I'm more what's the term? I'm more focused on what's on stage right now compared to, say, what's happening on my phone. And then afterwards, it was like, okay, afterwards, maybe during the intermission, I'll take a break, or maybe during a slow moment in the play, I'm like, okay, what time is it? 8:25. Okay, we got another hour to go. Come on. And it's definitely one of those type of things where it's just like, they hear about an actor, right? And they decide to say, okay, this actor's going to be appearing Nade. Nade? What the hell's Nade? That's a new word.
That sounds like a shorthand for a grenade.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So they're gonna appear as an entire grenade. It's gonna be a topical piece.
Actually, yeah, that actually is a nade. Yeah, that is right. Yeah, that is. People have said, and like a grenade, like a nade, like that. But I was trying to say nude. But there are going to be, like, and again, Jesse Williams is a prolific actor who is on Grey's Anatomy for how many seasons? Like, probably since the show started, I think. So he's been around, and so he's been a TV star for like maybe 20, like a main event, a primetime star for like 20 years or so, compared to, say, maybe a smaller actress or smaller actor who is kind of like very used to doing this on stage, because that's just like kind of like just a notion of, hey, uh, I'm gonna be appearing nude on stage again. Okay, I'm kind of like used to being nude on stage, so and again, I've only been in a couple of plays where I've actually seen that happen on stage, where it's like and it's always been treated quite well, and no one has tried to like take a photo or something like that too.
Yeah, like I remember.
Thank God.
Like I remember years ago. I think it was the first year I was in New York. I think it was like maybe 2015, if I remember right. Something like, yeah, I think it was 2015. And some classmates and I went to go see this production. Uh, and it was like kind of a almost sort of an immersive theater style kind of seating thing. And the play literally starts with like I think 3 or 4 of the actors kind of just like creeping around on the stage essentially, or well, really around us, the audience, because like I said, it's immersive. We're basically, the stage is just the same level as the seating, so we're all kind of, you know, in that together essentially.
Yeah.
And they're all kind of creeping around us, like like not entirely naked, just kind of like halfish naked, I'd say, or half nude.
Yeah.
And then one of the other actors runs into the room on stage, completely naked, right in the middle, just looks around at all the characters who are in this kind of like, you know, freaky looking like face paint too, and then runs past us, the audience, and like, you know, and because there's a good deal of like nudity in that show. I don't remember what it was called, but like there was a good deal of it, and like I was there and I didn't see anyone like taking pictures.
Yeah.
So it's also one of those things too where it's like, I think generally, and like a theater going audience isn't going to be like trying to take pictures with their cell phones. So I think like if this was more than just maybe 1 or 2 people doing this, then maybe I'd understand, you know, taking some precautions.
Yeah.
But as the information I know now, and also I did kind of have to step away for a little while because I had to get my cat back inside.
The one unjoyous thing about you being off camera is no shopping, but yeah, but I digress.
But yeah, so it's like, yeah, to my knowledge, it's just been like this one reported incident, and I feel like their response is just like, I don't think it's gonna go over well because you're not gonna be able to really convince a lot of people to hand you their cell phones for like even for like, you know, a 2 hour, however long, hour and a half, 2.5 hour, 3 hour even show play.
Yeah.
Because one, people don't want to leave something that valuable just lying around because, let's be honest, anything could happen. All it takes is one person just lifting the phone out of wherever they keep it and then just, you know, leaving.
Yeah. Or one person just sneaking a not only another cell phone, but maybe another like I said before, a GoPro, or investing in one of those like
like Google Glass or something.
Yeah, Google Glasses or whatever they're called.
And also the fact that they're magnetic too. It's like magnets can kind of mess up your phone though.
Yeah.
So like that's also another risk you basically have to take by trusting us. You got to hope that like the magnets they're using don't mess up your phone, or that they don't mess up the thing somehow and then cause your phone to get messed up.
And of course, you know, this happens on Broadway too, where it's just like, I understand, like, it's a Broadway theater, they want to have it, you know, beef up a little bit more, right? But again, you know, Broadway theaters or Broadway shows have.
I got to offer a correction quickly. I just quickly checked. So magnets shouldn't mess up your smartphones.
Oh.
So get rid of that. So just in the main point, just like you're leaving your phone for anyone to essentially take.
Magnets, how do they work? But yeah, it just goes to show you that, you know, there are going to be people that essentially say, hey, you know, I want to be, you know, I want to be with my phone. So of course there's going to be people who just take that phone into the theater with them and just watch the, you know, production or concert or whatever, or performance, and just like, I still want to have my phone on me just in case, right? But at the same time, you know, even though this could have been a freak occurrence, and just like, because I, you know, before that news came out, I was like, okay, if this play goes over well, right, without any instances, then something was probably doing something good over there. Because this is like the only time they're probably going to be doing this, unless, you know, because when there's going to be another play or another production that says, oh, by the way, this play, you know, this play or production is going to have nudity, or, you know, selective amounts of nudity, you know, how many people are going to be like, okay, this play has a couple of nudity scenes. They're probably going to have our phones with us, all that stuff, right? Uh, Compared to, say, them going to see some musical for, or some other play that doesn't have any nudity or something like that, and it's playing right down the block. It's like, will this like put a little smidge on the theater itself? I don't think so. I'll just say it probably will put a smidge on people wanting to go see the same show and thinking, okay, it's gonna be there for another, like, I think another month or so. I think, but until it goes, until it's like it's a run, it's out, like, done. But it's obviously one of those things where it's just like, and that brings back to another point I was gonna make before, where it's just like, previously, if it is a Broadway play and they find out that an actor, a famous actor is gonna be naked on stage, people will want to go see him more and more because it's that an actor, because they want to say, oh man, they could actually say, I saw this actor live on stage naked as the day when they were born, and they were wonderful in that play. But people will be like, I want to see what this, I want to see the fuss about what this. I want to see what the fuss what this was about. Because I remember the same thing happened with Daniel Radcliffe and the play that he did, like, post or one of the, I forgot if it was either before the end of Harry Potter or right after one of the big movies that came out. It might have been Order of the Phoenix. It might have been right before or after Deathly Hallows. It was probably before Deathly Hallows. And I remember basically the whole thing was that, this character, he's in therapy because he had a specific relationship with this horse, and at at one point people found out, it was like, oh, Harry Potter, Daniel Radcliffe, Harry Potter, appears, naked on stage with a horse, and I'm like, oh, people want to go, see that and, experience that to find out, okay, why is he naked on stage with a horse? And two, what the hell is this play even about if it's going to be like that? And of course, the whole play itself is a very, if I remember, a dramatic play about, not only therapy, but also just like, I think the relationships in general, because if I remember correctly, Equitus, I think it's called. I think that's the name of the horse. Like, he really, really loves that horse. And there was just that scene where he's like, I don't remember the gist of the scene, but basically the people remember that scene because the character basically, hey, he's just like nude with a horse. So it's like, that's kind of hard to not sell a play or production or something like that too, or film, regardless too. But yeah, I think by the end of the day, I think there's just going to be people just like saying, hey, there are just going to be people who just try and sneak their phone into the thing just to be, I mean, of course, there are going to be people bringing their phone into whatever production. But there's got to be people trying to sneak their phone and try and use their phone and try to take a picture of the play as they're doing it. And again, when you're an actor physically and both physically in a vulnerable state, but also both physically vulnerable and also vulnerable on stage, that definitely does put a more happenstance on the type of performance you're trying to do. And then you look over and there's someone just trying to record you on stage like crying. So yeah, it definitely feels like, it's a rough subject to go into, but at the same time, it's really nothing new. And I think that's the sad thing. Where it's just like there are going to probably be more performances in the future where some big actor or actress gets nude on stage or has some sort of nudity on stage, even if it's like a comedic scene. Someone will try and get a picture of that. And as actors, it really does hurt you. It does hurt you more emotionally because it's like, hey, I just did a great performance, and then find out I was like, oh, you know, that scene where you're running naked down the stage, downstage left, and or running half naked, I should say, or something to that effect.
Yeah, just anything like that.
Yeah,
where you're just more like physically exposed.
Yeah, when you're physically exposed, even if it's played for a laugh, and find out that someone recorded like 5 seconds of that, and now it's published online. It definitely gives you more of a sense of like what's the term? Just like exhaustion as an actor.
Mm-hmm.
Because as an actor, you do want to be like, yeah.
It's just like all around. It's just kind of a crappy situation because like it sucks that it happens, but then at the same time, the solution that they're offering at the moment, I can already see this just going poorly because all it's going to take is one person basically having a Karen moment because the theater loses their phone.
Yeah.
And then that's also going to be another thing too. It's like if you're basically forced to hand over your phone, then that actually does become the responsibility of the theater.
Yeah.
Because if you paid your ticket to go and see this show, then it is going to be on the theater's hands to keep your phone safe. So it will fall on them. And all it takes is like a couple of like, even just one incident or something like this happening for that to also then start causing a problem with that idea of like, just like locking the phones away. Yeah. So it's like all around, it's just like, I get the need to try and like, find a solution, but I don't know how well this solution is going to work out for them in the long run.
Yeah, specifically the whole infrared sensors thing. That's what really made me go, what? Like you're doing a performance, and all of a sudden you're installing infrared sensors that you're probably gonna not use until, of course, they're still gonna use it, obviously. Even if down the line they're doing another play, it's like, oh yeah, they're still gonna be using the infrared just to get on the safe side.
Mm-hmm.
But using infrared, like installing infrared sensors, is like that's a type of extreme measure just for a Broadway theater.
Also, those things cost a good chunk of money, I'd imagine. Like, are you willing to spend a lot of your theater's money on something like that? I mean, because then it's like, I want,
And yeah, it's
like, is spending money on that gonna like start eating into your money for upkeep on the theater, or like?
At the end of the day, this is basically the same story, where it's just like, this has happened before and will happen again, even with the countermeasures that theaters take.
Yeah.
But before we go, we do want to talk about something fun that just came off of news, just last night or just like a couple days ago. How many people still watch Doctor Who?
Yeah, I definitely stopped. I kind of stopped around Capaldi. I watched a little bit of what's her name?
Jodie Whittaker.
Pardon?
Jodie Whittaker.
Jodie Whittaker. Yeah, she's a good actress, but man, do they have some terrible writers.
I know.
Like, my God. You're doing such a disservice. Like, this is the first woman doctor, and you give her some of the crappiest writing to work with I've seen.
My best friend loves Doctor Who, and she told me, "It's like, yeah, it's just like it's horrible." I remember watching one of the newer episodes right when she became like the Doctor, and I kid you not, there was an episode where they had a character who was basically Donald Trump, but not Donald Trump.
Oh, I remember that exactly.
And it was
and ironically, it was Chris Noth's character.
Oh man!
So it's like, and then the stuff that's come out about him. So it's like,
jeez,
that's kind
of creep. That's kind of like oddly specific.
Yeah.
But yeah, Doctor Who.
And that's the thing. Like the episode was decent. Like at least yeah, it was interesting to a degree.
And then
but then you get episodes where it's like, oh, there's this big interesting plot, and then there's this mystery. Who is it? Who is the person? Who's the killer? And then so it's this guy who all of a sudden, from no information we've even found out before, who literally all we've known him, he was just a janitor, somehow knows all these inner workings and can program their equivalent of the Amazon androids. Like, all you gotta do is just put a little bit of like hidden detail in there to make us doubt that maybe this guy isn't, maybe he isn't. It really doesn't take that much work. Or then the episode that came after that one, where it's like the Salem, I think it was the Salem witch trials, or just a witch trial going on, and they spend more time focusing on that, kind of saying, hey, there's an alien threat, and then through the alien threat and at the last 10 minutes, and then conveniently find a solution to solve it with complete and total ease. So it's like not even a threat.
See,
but they tried to build it up like it was a threat, but they clearly didn't even want to focus on that. But then they remembered, oh yeah, this thing is still here. We gotta take care of this problem we've created and just kind of left here.
I think this is the reason why I think Peter Capaldi, the 12th Doctor ventures are probably going to be overlooked with a new light going forward, where it's just like, oh, we were kind of like, this was like a strange new Doctor. Now compared to what this Doctor's writings have done, is like, okay, maybe we were just a little wrong about Capaldi's Doctor, because at least with his Doctor, he had fun. He tried to essentially solve everything with sound logic and stuff like that too. But at the same time, his stories actually felt like stories. Even if there were, if it leaned toward the fan service towards some of them.
Yeah, like
here,
I think it was its second season for his Doctor. I don't remember which season number it was. I think it was probably season 11, 10, 11, maybe.
One of them, yeah.
Yeah. So basically, it starts off where he's just kind of like, where they reintroduce the Master as Missy.
Yeah.
I think that's what her name was.
Yeah, it was.
And then we basically get this kind of like two-parter as like the Doctor meeting Davros, who was like this, Dalek ruler essentially, seemingly dying, and then we find out, oh no, it was actually part of a bigger plot. And an actual interesting story went with it. And then the two-parter that came after that one, where it's like this underwater base and this whole crazy thing, and there's like a really fun scene where it's like we think that like something's gonna happen to the Doctor, and then, oh yeah, he just turns it around because it's part of his plan. And just honestly a fun way. And then and of course I think one of its best episodes where you get that amazing speech where it literally has like one of those infamous lines of where he just goes, "Sit down and talk."
Yes.
Like literally, it's like that actually had good stories, and it was actually engaging. You actually wanted to see what was going to happen because they didn't shy away from what the actual conflicts of the episodes were.
And now, because we bring in Doctor Who, is because of not only have they announced who the new Doctor is going to be, the 14th Doctor is going to be the first iteration of essentially an African African American doctor, or person of color doctor, I should say. But at the same time, they just announced that David Tennant and Catherine Tate are returning for the 60th anniversary special, which will probably be happening next year somewhere down the line. I'm not sure when.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be 2023 for sure.
And it's definitely going forward where it's just like, okay, because that was because I always remember oddly enough, aside from the Chris Eccleston series, like that didn't lean towards the fan service type of thing. It was towards
to a degree though, because like they did bring in things from the older ones, like the the episode that might have just been called Dalek.
No. I'm talking about like his when he regenerates into the Doctor, right?
Oh, okay.
Like when he regenerates into the new into 10, I remember it being like a very fan service like a fan service type of like exit and stuff like that too. But when 10 decided to go into 11, right? Mm-hmm. That was like very almost like fan service, where it's just like he's meeting with all these people from the past and the present and the future, stuff like that too. When 11 decided to go into when you have 11 going into 12, that basically became a whole like fan service thing, because it was coinciding with the 50th anniversary special as well. So basically, you have this whole like.
Well, I would say for the 10th Doctor, I wouldn't even call it fan service. I would actually call that his Doctor getting closure, because we never see him interact with any of those characters from his tenure as like the Eccleston Doctor and the Tennant Doctor again.
Okay, that is true. Yeah.
So I think in that instance, it is his Doctor just kind of getting some closure before he regenerates again.
But I was talking about fan service in the sense of like all these characters coming back, just like almost like for a couple of seconds, right?
I mean,
I
mean, it kind of. I think it just depends, because they kind of did that. They kind of like did kind of remind us that there is a lot of interconnectedness when it came to the Tennant era with those characters, because in season 4 they brought back Martha.
Yeah.
For like a couple episodes in the middle, and then we see her again near the end for the big final battle stuff. And then we also see Rose, and then we see Jack Harkness again. Like we basically, see everyone. And also they brought back Jack Harkness from like season 1 into season 3, so from the Eccleston into Tennant. And I wouldn't necessarily call it fan service, because they do a lot with the characters.
Oh, well, they do.
So that's why I wouldn't necessarily go in fan service in that degree. Like when it comes to the like the 50th special, yeah, I can definitely see that one being more on the fan servicey side, because that is kind of the whole premise of it anyway, essentially.
But I just remember like when Smith going into Peter Capaldi, I remember it like his Doctor becoming a lot more like a fan service-y type of exit, and then when Capaldi was going into the
yeah, but what makes it fan? But what made it fan servicey though?
11 going into 12. I remember. I'm trying to go back from memory too, where it's just like I remember by fan servicey. I think I just mean by giving the Doctor almost like a happy ending per usual in terms of the regeneration, rather than just being alone in a exploding TARDIS or something like that.
Well, I think something I have to keep in mind though is because something we've heard reiterated that like from the Doctors is that it is essentially a life of them that is dying for a new one to come around and take over. So it's not just like when they, you do a new actor. It's literally said by Tennant that it's like it is essentially a whole new person altogether, and whoever he was before goes away with him. That's why when you get that infamous line of "I don't want to go."
Ah, okay.
Because then he, even though he accepts that it's going to happen, he knows that like his life, essentially everything he has done as the 10th Doctor, like it all ends. Like his life as 10th Doctor ends, and then essentially someone else takes over the wheel.
Oh,
Like not just as an actor sense, but also as the character and in the story sense.
you do have a good point there. But it just brings to questions like, yes, they are bringing back Donner and the Doctor. At what point is like, what is going to be their like notion in the story? Is like, oh, okay, because as much as I know about this current Doctor and how essentially they basically turned the Doctor Who into almost like an X-Files type of show, where it's just like now it's like the Doctor's trying to figure out what literally makes her tick, like she literally is going into the notions like, okay, why is she called the Doctor? It's like all this stuff, and as opposed to just being, hey, let's just go to this planet for a an hour adventure, and it turns out to be like, oh, it's a planet of sleeping aliens, and they only sleep because of a telepathic entity that that only eats their dreams and whatnot. So. And the Doctor has to figure out how to keep both things alive, as per Doctor's thing. So it's like, and now it's like this Doctor has like, I think that's another thing that's like, in terms of the Doctor that I've learned so much about is them trying to cram in the whole notion of a fun Doctor Who adventure mixed in with what they call a myth arc, where it's just like they're trying to essentially create a show built around a driving question or something, or a driving notion, and there have been shows that actually done that quite well, like Twin Peaks. Who Killed Laura Palmer. Even though the show went on a little bit longer than it should have, by David Lynch's own words, at least they treated that as best as they could.
Mm-hmm.
What was it? Pine Falls? No.
Pinewood?
No, not Pinewood. That Dipper Falls, maybe. It was on Disney Channel. Gravity Falls. There we go.
Mm.
Gravity Falls. Basically, a kid goes over to his summer and finds out that his uncle's his eccentric uncle has some stories to tell, and he has a very fun summer to say that. And again, I'm not saying that a myth arc of Doctor Who wouldn't be good. They do that previously in other episodes and other seasons, where it's just like they do it rather well. Mm-hmm. When they bring back the Daleks, and they also bring back the Daleks that were previously mentioned or something like that. But I think the problem is that, and this is what you were just talking before, which is that there are very, very bad writing in terms of this Doctor. Mm-hmm. And whoever was trying to do, and I forgot who does this, I'm blanking on the name of who wrote this series or who was the showrunner. And again, my best friend could attest to this. The showrunner did not do a great job in terms of like creating a stable story structure for a fantastic character like the Doctor. Mm-hmm. And on that note, I think that's a good way to end the episode. So kind of like went on a little bit there. Yeah. I mean, like 30 minutes about talking about the James Bond thing, and then almost like close to 40 minutes with what happened with the Take Me Out thing, because that was more like a personal. That was like more of a personal thing for me because of me, who works still in the industry of being in front of house. And then we ended the episode with talking about Doctor Who. But again, I just hope that even though Russell T Davies, who is coming back to the Doctor for the next season, whatever they call it.
Yeah, they call it a series.
Yeah, the next series. I do hope that he does bring back a nice little funness of the Doctor. Because that's what I do miss. Because I do miss like the Doctor just doing these random like one-off episodes that they don't feel like one-off episodes. They do feel like they are part of the narrative. they're part of a greater adventure. But a lot.
Yeah. It's like a one-off, but it does kind of tie into an overarching like theme of the season, essentially.
But from what I've heard and from what I've read about with these new doctors, is that for the past like couple of seasons, if not since the show started, it has just been like one long like continuous arc about this new doctor, as opposed to just creating her as her own like kind of like doctor character.
It's like they spend more time like basically trying to make it clear to you, if you couldn't already tell, that yes, she is a woman.
Yes.
Just in case, you weren't, watching with your eyes or something, I guess, or whatever.
And of course, they could have, and of course, I think they had episodes where they go in the past and they have like the woman doctor, or
Yeah, that was literally like they only did it like one time in like her first season, where they go back into the past, like I was talking about with the witch trial episode, and because she's a woman in like the 1600s, 1700s, whatever, it's like people aren't going to listen to her as easily.
Yeah.
And of course, because she's used to like just doing what she does as a doctor when she was a man.
And I remember there was also one episode where they meet Rosa Parks, I believe, or one of the episodes was like that.
Yeah, I think that was like the third episode, I think.
And it kind of like, and of course, they have had instances where the doctor has like really helped his companions, because I remember there's a great episode with Capaldi, basically berating some guy for, and this was in his last season 2 with Bill, and Bill and him were like in some sort of like Victorian thing or something like that, and she's in a dress and she's having fun and all that stuff, and some guy comes up to her and is like, sees her as like a servitude type of thing, and Capaldi just like chews him out and then maybe punches him. I have no idea. It might have been a punch. But then there's this great episode where it's like, I believe it's the Lantern episode, where it's just like Tennant is, I think it was like Tennant and Rose are in like the right before Blitzkrieg London, or one of those type of, it's basically pre-World War II London or in World War II.
Oh, I know which one you're talking about. It's the one where they introduced Jack Harkness, right?
I believe so. And
that was like it's the "Are You My Mummy" thing in like the gas mask.
Yeah, I believe.
Yeah, but that was Eccleston, not Tennant.
No, not Eccleston. No, I'm talking about. There's this one episode where Tennant's Dr. Ten and Rose go into, or it may have been who's it called? Martha. It might have been Martha, or it might have been Rose. I forgot which one. But they're with this family, and because of how progressive the new companions are, because they're in modern day and they're kind of like talking back to this this guy at the house. The doctor's just not having it, and he's just like watching this guy just like berate these his, not only his family, his wife, his daughter, sons, whatnot. And then the doctor, it's like, I mean, not the doctor, the head of the hospital says, "You should be listening to me," and the doctor just looks like, "But I'm not listening," or something like that, or something like that. I can't do Tennant.
This almost kind of sounds like an Eccleston, not Eccleston, a Capaldi episode. I think.
I know it's a Tennant episode because it's basically
or maybe they kind of brought that theme in, or maybe they kind of used that same thing a couple times, because it sounds like this sounds familiar.
Because remember, Capaldi was basically like almost like a great grandpa, like the grandfather type of doctor, where he was more focused on the companions after a while. All right, yeah, that was today's episode. I'm sorry if it ran a little long, but hey, it was fun. Again, that's what happens when you miss a week and we decide to have it's tough to talk to, and it's, even though it was just my face that you probably be seeing, even though Hayden is literally like right across from here. But yeah, that was today's episode. I hope you all enjoy next week's episode, where we are going to be talking about the Obi-Wan show. Maybe, I don't know. we do have an Obi-Wan special.
And probably like talking spending a whole lot of time just talking about Star Wars in general, because knowing us, we'll just start going off on like some tangents about that.
That is true. And yeah, please be safe, be well, and take care. And yes, we do need a referee. So if anybody's interested, hit us up on our Instagram.
And in this corner.
Please be safe and take care.